this is Bonnie, and today I am going to be using this die from Tim Holtz and Sizzix, and it is called Brushstroke Flowers number 2, 665210. And the papers I'm going to be using to cut out that die, this is from We Are 3 Digital Shop. And this is from the collection called Under the Sea. I am also going to be using, I reduced this one to 3 inches. This is actually 5.5 inches. And I reduced this one. This was actually the paper behind is from the Houndstooth collection. And it is a gold, faux gold looking sparkly. It's not really sparkly, but it looks like it's metallic. And the sentiment is also from We Are 3 Digital Shop, and it is the special holidays. There's several different wishes on there for holidays. So the reason I'm using this paper is I felt looking at this set that I would be able to use a lot of different colors, this being the main part of the flower, and then this around here, depending on the size of the die pieces, I'd be able to use to go with it because it would coordinate. So I'm going to go ahead and start setting up the die. Okay, so these are the die pieces. I was thinking this was going to be a lot like colorized. It is not like colorized at all. And on the backs of colorized, they tell you what color and what layer, you know, to put on top of each other. These are single, and you can put things on top of each other. So in this case, I'm going to do the main one is going to be the center of this, which will be the blue, which is perfect because it fits really well. Like I said, I think I made this so that it was, well, actually it's 6 inches. So yeah, if you make it 6 inches, it will fit perfectly, because this is digital paper, it'll fit perfectly to cut that one out. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that, and then I'm going to start figuring out which of these will fit. Like I think this one will fit really, really well right here. Now, here's the deal, is some of these pieces are supposed to be layered on top. So like you can see, I can see the inside. This is a separate piece. So in as much as I'm going to be getting blue all of the same ones, I plan to use some of the distressed oxide ink to color them up to make them a little bit darker or light, or you know, whatever I want to do to change them out. So I'm going to get started. Okay, so I have the pieces all figured out what you needed from that cut. And obviously you need your base, and then there's this really long looking piece right here. And then there's a piece that looks like a twig, and then you have the pistons or the center of the flower. There are 4 other pieces that you do not need. You will not need any of those, so you can toss those, but you will need these pieces. Now, you can cut this out twice if you want to, or 3 times, but it would cut out everything 3 times. And this would be a darker shade because it's going to look like it's in the flower, and this part of the flower is coming forward. So the depth, this would be your depth. And then this is the darkest color if you want your center of your flower to be dark. So I have pulled out Distress Oxide Chipped Sapphire. It is like the darkest blue I think that I have in my collection. And I am going to try to go over this and make it as dark as I can, because I want it to be, I want it to blend in with what's behind. So I want it to kind of give it just a depth. And so that is why these are, if you look at your picture, you can see on the front of Sizzix that these pieces are a little bit darker. And then the center piece is the darkest. So all I'm doing, and be careful when you do this because these pieces are tiny, they can be bent. So I'm trying to hold it carefully when I am blending it. But you can see it needs to be blended. Have a couple more passes to make it dark enough to cover that up as best I can. So that piece will be done. And you can see there's a difference between the two. And then I have to do this tiny one that looks like a twig. We always get inky fingers when we do ink. But this works really well so that you don't have to cut it out like 3 times if you don't want to. And so I've got those 2 pieces done. So the center one, just in keeping with what the picture looks like, I decided to take to get some black soot. Now, I know that the oxide is not as true of a black as the regular Distress ink, but that's what I'm going for. And for us, this is going to work perfect. And then we'll be able to layer this piece up. And there are score lines on your flower. Let me show you if I can get that a little bit closer. You can see the score lines, so you'll know where to put things. But always look at the cover. The cover always gives you a really good idea of what is supposed to be where. So I'm going to be using my glue, just regular glue, and I am going to be putting, we'll put this up just a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to be putting some glue on these pieces so I can put that down. There's only 3 pieces, 3 layers. Not really layers, just 3 pieces. And really technically, I guess it would be 3 layers because you have your first layer, which is the blue, whoops, which is the blue. And then you have the center of your flower on top of these layers. So, my problem lots of times is the lighting in here. If I have the overhead light, there's too much of a glare. If I use the natural light, I have a shadow. But I think we're doing okay doing that. So you can see there's a contrast there just by using the ink without having to cut it out 2 times or 3 times. Okay. Need some ink or glue down there. Try not to block that shadow so you can see what I'm doing. And really it lines up perfectly with those score lines. Okay, so we've got the dark blue, the shadow, and then the next one we need to do is the center of the flower. So it really goes together quite quickly once you figure out how these go together. Just trying to get that glue on. And then I'm going to set that right on top of there. Again, you can see the 3, so I know that those go there. And then the rest of them will fit on. I need to slide that up a little bit. My piercing tool helps me lots of times get things lined up because these little pieces do move. So then I can just make them help me stick things down before they dry. So there we go. We've got our first flower that will go on our card. Now I'll tell you what I'm going to do with this because I already used a little bit of the Distress Oxide Chipped Sapphire. I'm going to come back in and just go around, I think, the outside edges. Just to give that a little bit of depth. It still has a little bit of black soot on this particular brush. You can see behind how it makes a really nice stencil too. Okay, so once you get that done, next step will be to do the other flowers and the foliage. Okay, so I'm going to work on this flower right here. That is a kind of a burgundy lavender, and I'm going to line this up. I can see right here that that's the center of the flower. This right here is going to be the depth again, so I'm not going to worry so much, but I am going to go for this as a center, and then this part right here for the most of the purple that I have. So I'm going to turn it around just like that, and I'm going to die cut that. And that will give me that flower. For the next one, let's see here. Grab that. It's a little bit bigger, but I think I'm going to go down here towards the bottom. It has a little bit more blue and green, and I'm going to save this green part for my foliage. Okay, let's see about, I'm looking at this to see what the center and the pieces are on that. I think these, yeah, these two pieces go on top. So we'll see what we can do. I want to get that so it's mostly in the blue. So that one's all set up. I'm going to be able to die cut those at the same time. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got this one cut out. Like I said, I cut that from this part of that piece of paper. And again, I need to have two colors. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the Seedless Preserves, and I am going to be darkening this part, or just changing the color of the small piece right there. The ink just works perfect for those little bits. So that piece is done. And then the centerpiece, they are showing it as a yellow gold color. So I am going to be using my gel pen, and I am just going to color that in with my gel pen. It's very tiny, so it's not going to take very long. So that will be the center of that flower. This is going to go quite quickly also. Let me get my ink out of the way a second. And I just need to grab that little piece, and I need to look at the flower where the score lines are. Whoops. And the score lines, let's get that a little bit closer. Oops, sorry about that with my hand. You can see the little score lines in there. And I'm going to set that. I'm going to use my paper piercer thing again to make sure I get that all lined up. And you can see by putting the ink on it, it has distorted the little petal. So I need to push it in. There we go. So that's pretty much lined up the way that should be. And then the next one would be the center, which we put the gold on, gel pen. And we need to look at those little petals a minute. And again, you can always look at your cover. So we've got that little flower done, and that's quite cute. Whoops. That looks really cute. That goes really good with our other flower. Have a little bit of a difference. All right, so the next flower, I didn't have as much of an option with the color. So I have this one right here. It's not really solid, and I'm thinking like, I kind of would like it to be a little bit more solid. So I am going to be using my brush in changing the color slightly. And I am going to be using peacock feathers. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go around it because I want a little bit of a different color, and I want it to look a little bit more uniform. And I can see I forgot to, oh, I think that's an indentation. Yep, just an indentation. It actually makes the score lines show up a little bit better too. And you see, like I said, every time I do that, it even has a kind of a cool stencil. Okay, so these middle teeny tiny pieces are what came with these three little pieces. Also came with this to cut it out. Again, those are the depths. So what I'm going to do is, it needs to be darker. So I am going to be using the Chip Sapphire again, in this case. And I'm going to be making these teeny tiny pieces darker. I don't want them to look black because this really tiny piece right here, here we go. The very tiny piece does need to look black. So, okay, we've got that one. And now we've got this one. Okay. They're a little bit darker. They're not, you know, majorly dark, but they're a little bit darker. So that centerpiece, you know what? I think because I like how the, I like how this gold, I like how the gold gel pen works. I think that's what I want. It shows on the cover to make it black, but I kind of like this gold. And I could always change my mind and put a black gel pen on top of it afterwards if I don't like it. All right, so we're all set up for that one. And again, these are probably the tiniest pieces. I'm gonna pull it up just a little so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this one is more of a, has more of a square piece to it, and that is how you line it up by matching the pieces. Now, if you question it, before you put the glue on it, just put them where they're supposed to be, and then take them off one at a time, because then you know you've got them in the right place. So there's that one. And then this one has more of an oval look to it. And really, each one of these flowers only had like 3 pieces to them. Well, they had, yeah, an extra on top of the main one. They had 3 pieces. Which was just to highlight, you know, the petals, and then to put the middle of the flower in. Okay, so we've got that one. And now for the centerpiece. This one's the tiniest. I know people use tweezers, but I would have to, it's to me almost like a handicap for me to have tweezers on top of holding them, so. All right, so we've got all 3 of our flowers done now. There we go. And I think they look really pretty. I think they'll make a really pretty card. So the next thing we're going to be doing will be the foliage. And I'm going to be using, again, the same piece of paper because it has a lot of green on it. And that's what I'm going to be using to add to these flowers. Okay, so before I cut these out, I want you to see how I laid out the leaves on here in case you want to do something similar. So just kind of like take a screenshot of this if you want to, and then you'll know how to put that placement. I'll even hold these down here so you can see that too. You can see how I place those on that paper. I'm getting everything out of one paper, which is really cool. The only one I have not put on there is the small one, and I think it's because I'm going to use some of Tim Holtz metallic because I really like the little bit of pop of metal looking on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cut out. Okay, so I've got all the leaves cut out, and there is just, for the 3 of them, they're just what they are, just those leaves. And then the only one you have to really put together is this one piece right here, and it has 3 different pieces. And what I decided to do is pull out some forest moss, and I am going to still use my peacock feathers, one that I got dirty. Might have a little bit of blending there. And I am just going to make this one darker. And you got to be careful, it is true, this little piece on the end is delicate. And if you rub it too hard, it'll rip off. Which you could always still glue back on, but just FYI, be careful. So that one's a little bit darker. It's not as dark as what I was hoping for. Maybe I could put a little coat on it. Because the more you add, the darker it can get. Okay, I think that one looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do this one. I think my fingernails are going to be green and blue. Kind of pretty. Okay, so I've got those two pieces done. I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm just going to come around the edges of these larger leaves just to give them a little bit of depth. I don't mind that this has blue on it. I think it's kind of pretty. So it'll just give us a little bit of variety in terms of our leaves. Whoops. Because each one is a little bit different. So like I said, the only one I don't have cut out is the one that I'm going to cut out of the metallic. It looks copper to me. All right, so let me go ahead and glue these so you can see what it looks like. These are done. And then we just need to fix this one right here, add the pieces, the layers. So I'm taking the largest piece first. I don't think it overlaps at all. Nope. I looked at the cover. Like I said, that cover, it's a good thing they make those covers on Sizzix, because it is a good example. And of course, the people that design for Tim Holtz also have beautiful ways that they color and put theirs together. You can always look at their examples also. All right, so there's not a big contrast for that, but that's okay, it's foliage. For me. I think it could also be really budding flowers, but it's not what I did. Okay, I'll move my shadow out of the way. And that goes on top. So we have that piece done also. So we have our 3 or 4 pieces of foliage done. The only one I need, like I said, is metallic one. I'll get that done really quickly and show you. Okay, so I cut out the smallest piece. This one, I don't know why, is my favorite piece. I just love this little die. So I cut it out, even though the cover just shows it one time, I cut it out 3 times of the metallic. I wanted to show you that too. I don't have a cover to this anymore. The cover came off, but this is a Tim Holtz a metallic looking paper, and I am using the number 5 that looks like copper. So that's what I ended up using to make these pieces, and I went ahead and made 3 because I love them. So that's what we have to work with. Now we're going to arrange our card. Okay, so for the background of my card using the flowers, I've decided to use We Are 3 digital paper. It is called Fairyland, and it comes as a 6x6 paper, and what I did is I enlarged it to be a 5x7. So, and I actually cropped it to make it work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a Tim Holtz stencil, and I want this brick to be a part of the background. So I'm going to be using molding paste and just randomly putting some of the brickwork on here and in different places. This particular molding paste is not real thick. It's quite light. So I'm going to be, I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'm going to have a little bit of a random look throughout the back of the paper. And I don't want to wait too long because I also want to add some of the Tim Holtz glaze on this. So kind of trying to be a little bit quick at it, doing it randomly. I think that's going to work. Okay, so I've got some spots throughout. I don't want to wait too long with my stencil either because it'll get hard to get off. So right away I'm going to go ahead and use, what I am using is the speckled egg. It's a little bit different than the background. I wanted it to be different than the background. I didn't want it to be the same color blue so it blend in. So I am going to be tapping some of this on. And then I'm going to be doing the kind of tapping underneath to get it I don't mind some of it still being white, but I want it to also be a little bit of this speckled egg. So I'm going to let that dry. You can see that. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and heat, emboss that. Okay, so you can see that I have got that the embossing glaze on the bricks now, and it actually has like a glossy texture to it. It looks kind of cool. So I'm gonna then arrange the flowers on here, but before I did that I needed to figure out how I was going to add the sentiment, and I decided to go ahead and use the 3D Impresslits again. This one I'm going to use the heart. I have used this in another video. This one's Lucky Love, and it's 665227. And so I've already put that in there and run it through. And it did kind of like go over the side a little bit, but I think that it works still really well. And I'm going to be adding that to my card with the flower. So I'm going to go ahead and get the flower arranged, and then I will be right back to glue it together. Okay, so I have the card all laid out. It is not attached in terms of the flowers being on. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get that back on there the way you see it. And I am putting foam tape. I'll put this up just a little bit further. I'm putting foam tape on the back of the flower, and I want it to be raised up so that the other flowers are underneath it when I go to put them on. So I'm not really sure if this is going to obstruct some of the foliage I'm going to be putting on. I might have to cut it if that's the case, cut the foliage. So I was going to go ahead and show you how I put this together, if it might be something that somebody might need some help with arranging. So like I said, I laid everything out first, and then I am coming back in and putting it back on, and I can still adjust the ones underneath. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing with the ones underneath is I am going to be using glue for some of them, and then some of them I am going to raise them up with the foam tape. So it's, like I said, it's sort of like flower arranging but with paper. I think I'm going to raise this one up just a little bit, the turquoise one. So I'm going to put some foam tape underneath that one as well. It just gives a little bit more texture, dimension to the actual card. And you can really arrange these any way you want to. I'm just doing a little bit very similar to the picture on the Sizzix packaging. I am going to be putting the foam, I'm going to do the foam tape first. Foam tape underneath the heart. With the foam tape under the heart, I double up because it is embossed to be a little bit higher. I don't want to lose that height. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oops. The sentiment, I think I said that earlier, maybe I didn't. The sentiment is from We Are Three digital shop, and it is special, I think special holidays. Okay, so I'm going to use some of the glue. Just a little bit on the end. I think I am going to raise up this flower as well. I didn't think I was going to, but I think I am. I think I'm going to leave the leaves back with glue, and just the flowers are going to be having the double-sided tape, foam tape. And that one needs some. And then, like I said, I still have the metallic pieces too to add. Okay. And these are the metallic pieces that I might end up having to cut off. I think I'm gonna, yep. I had a feeling, because if I put those, if I put the foam tape and I put the main flower down first, there's always a chance you're gonna have to cut back a little bit. Okay, so I think I'll measure that one. Yep. We have one more. Give a good whip in there. I'm going to need to trim that one back too. Okay, so that is how the arrangement's going to be on the card. You can see that. It looks pretty good. I love that. I love that flower. I think that's really, really, really gorgeous. So it's just a matter of me putting that actually on a card now. What I think I'm going to do is probably cut this back just a tad bit, and I'm going to go ahead and use the same copper looking metallic to frame that out and put it on a card. I will have the look of the finished look at the beginning of the video, so you'll be able to see. If you want to even scroll back to or start it over again, you can see exactly what I did, how I finished it, putting it on a card. I appreciate you stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed that. If you could please like and subscribe, that'd be great. I'll have all the information down below in the description box. Thanks so much.